What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back to the channel. And as you guys can tell by the title of the video, yes, I have an updated Dark World deck profile for you guys. Now I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are probably thinking, wait a minute, didn't you say you were gonna do that deck profile physically or something like that? Yes, I know, I did say that, but I'm pretty sure that the price of the structure guys are gonna go up a little bit. So so I think it'd be better if I just waited. If I waited until the price went down a bit, or just go ahead and just buy the singles, in my honest opinion. So I figured, you know what? Why not just get the deck profile out of the way now and discuss all of the new cards that are in this. And plus, truth be told, two copies of one of the cards that's in the main deck will not be released until possibly a future Battles of Legend, perhaps? I don't even know. I don't know if we're gonna get it at all, honestly, but yeah, it'll be a while before we get that card. But before we get started, I do want to give a big shout out to a person who commented on my Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1 opening from like what was it, the other day or something like that? I did it on Sunday, if I remember right. Yeah, it was like this past Wednesday. I want to give a big shout out to This Week Nerd Stuff. So big shouts to him. He commented saying quote LMAO, I can't believe I haven't opened up one of these yet. I'm not quite sure what the money card is for this set, but those ultra rare MST cards are sweet pulls. Thank you for that. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. But to this week nerd stuff, if you do want to get your hands on a display box of Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1, or potentially go after the mini boxes, there's a link down below that they can go to, collectorstore.com. Shoutouts to them. I've actually partnered with them for the last like 3-4 years now. So the link will be down in the description below. You can get them there. I think they're selling them for like, they're selling a whole display box for like 70, maybe $80 or something like that. But the mini boxes are like 12 or like 13 bucks a piece, which actually is not too bad, especially if you pull the skill drain. You basically get your money back and then some. So shoutouts to my partners at Collector Store. If you guys want to check out their online store, the link will be in the description below. If you guys want to check them out physically and you guys are in the St. Peter's area, their address will be in the description below. Make sure you look for Ben and let him know that I sent you. The dude is super chill. I like him. He's cool. He is pretty cool. But moving on to this deck. So what's cool about this version is that it utilizes some of the new cards that are going to be in the Dark World structure that we're going to get in November, I believe. So it'll be a while before we get these cards. But I'm telling you with the new cards, it's possible that this deck could potentially be meta. But as always, I am running a very small resonator package, which the resonators with the Dark World cards are just so good. So so hopefully you guys are ready for this deck profile. If you guys are and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, follow me on all of my social media, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck list on my Instagram. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. Let's get straight into it. Kicking things off, obviously, are the Dark World monsters. So first up, we have a single copy of Rainbow Supreme Overlord of Dark World. Here's the thing. A lot of people will tell you that this card is better off at 3. No, I'm telling you guys, it is not. And the reason being is because the original Rainbow's effect reads, if this card is discarded from your hand to your grave by an opponent's card effect, special summon this card from the grave. When this card is special summoned this way, destroy all monsters your opponent controls or all spell and traps they control. So this is basically one of the worst cards in the whole in the whole archetype because of the fact that you need to have Ceruli in your graveyard to trigger its effect, so you can then be able to send Rainbow to your graveyard, summon it, and then be able to pop. With Rainbow Supreme Overlord, it's a little bit better. It's a lot better than the original, mainly because of the fact that it gives you a search. So the effect reads, you can special summon this card from your grave by returning a level 7 or lower Dark World monster you control to the hand. If this card is discarded to the grave by a card effect, you can add a level 5 or higher Dark World monster from your deck to your hand except this card. Then, if this card was discarded from your hand to the grave by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck or grave to either field. So in a scenario where you activate, let's say, Dark World Dealings, you pitch, you draw 1 and you send, let's say Ceruli. Let's say you discard Ceruli. Ceruli's effect triggers. You get to summon it to your opponent's side of the field, and Ceruli makes you its opponent. So by that logic, you get to discard a card. The card that you would discard would be Rainbow. His effect would trigger, which means you get to add Grapha to your hand, and you get to summon potentially any level 4 or lower Dark World monster that you have at your disposal, which the only Dark World monsters that are level 4 or below that I have at my disposal are Brawn, Snow, Beige, Gren, Pearl, which is another new Dark World monster, and of course Ceruli itself, which I will explain what each of them do for those who have never seen any of the Dark World monsters before. So it's basically Rainbow on steroids, but you don't get the pop. And plus, truth be told, if you don't have Ceruli in your hand, the original Rainbow is just essentially a brick, and it does nothing. It does absolutely nothing to the deck because there are so many outs to it. But with Rainbow, there's hardly any outs. But still, I think like maybe the only out could potentially be Ash Blossom, but because of one of the new cards that we're going to talk about once we get into the spells, it basically makes this deck even more powerful than it ever was before. But yeah, only one Rainbow only because it makes it easier for you to bounce Rainbow back into the hand. So you can then trigger its effect to basically just add even more monsters to your hand that way. Next up, we have 2 copies of Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. This is another one of those cards that may seem like it's better at 3, but it's better at 2 because just like Rainbow Supreme Overlord of Dark World, Grapha also has a bit of a floater effect. So what he does is that you can special summon him from your graveyard by bouncing one of your Dark World monsters back to your hand, with the exception of itself. If it were to be discarded to the grave by a card effect, you get to pop any card that your opponent may have. But if it was discarded to discarded from your hand to the grave by your opponent's card effect. In which case, let's say Ceruli. That means that you get to pop a card that your opponent has on board, and you get to you get to basically confiscation your opponent's hand, meaning you get to look at your opponent's hand, rip one out, and if it's a monster, you can summon it to your field, which is just absolutely nuts. Which will give you access to go into any of your synchros that you may have at your disposal. And plus, again, just like Rainbow Supreme, Overlord, Dark World, Grapha is also a floater, so it's better off at 2. Next up, we have 2 copies of Silva Warlord of Dark World and 2 copies of Gold Warlord of Dark World. So both Gold and Silva have the same effect, where if it were to be discarded by a card effect, you get to basically treat it as a monster reborn, some of them back to the field. But if they're discarded to the grave by an opponent's card effect, Silva has the effect where you get to basically double dust shoot 2 of your opponent's cards from their hand back into the bottom of the deck in any order, which is just absolutely nuts. Which will give you a card advantage over your opponent. And then Gold basically just pops 2 cards that your opponent has on board, which is just absolutely insane. Not much else to say about that, but only 2 copies though. I know some people will probably say that they're better at 3. Honestly, no, because if you overcrowd your high level monsters with multiple copies, then you're not going to be able to see any of your draw cards. You're never going to see any of your tuner monsters, and you're not going to be able to go into any of your synchro plays that you have at your disposal. So that's why I decided to keep that monster lineup. 2 gold, 2 silver, 2 grapha, and a single rainbow. But moving on into the 4-star monsters, we have 3 copies of Brawn, Mad King of Dark World. This card basically just lets you discard a card from your hand when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, which can give you access to ditch, Snow Unlight of Dark World, which I am running 3 copies of. Which will give you access to add, pretty much any Dark World card to your hand, which could be anything, dealings, it could be, any of the monsters, or even also the field spell, the gate, the field spell itself, which could be a possibility, but you never know. But you never know. I'm surprised that we didn't get another, I'm surprised that we didn't get another, another like field spell or something. I'm kind of surprised about that. But next up we have 3 copies of Snow. Basically, this is basically your Stratos for the whole deck. But it also has the second effect where it reads that if it were to be discarded from your hand to the grave by an opponent's card effect, not only do you get the Stratos effect, but you also get to special summon one of your opponent's monsters from your graveyard, so it acts as sort of like a monster reborn, which is just absolutely nuts. And plus with Snow and let's say a 2-star tuner monster, you get to make a level 6, which I'm running 2 level 6 synchros in the extract, but again, we'll get to that later on. But Snow is basically your Stratos for the whole deck, which is absolutely nuts. Then we have 2 copies of Beige Vanguard of Dark World. Not the best card in the deck, but it does act as a monster reborn when it's sent to the grave by a card effect, which is really good, especially if you want to go into your synchro plays and you have a tuner in hand. This card could really do some damage. Then, of course, also we have 2 copies of Grand Tactician of Dark World, which is basically your MST for the whole deck, which is really nice. Then we are running a single copy of Pearl, Hermit of Dark World. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, what about the other Dark World monster? What is that called? So the other card that you were referring to is Genta, Gateman of Dark World. So if you guys don't know what this card does, the effect reads: you can discard this card to the grave, add 1 that gets a Dark World from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished and you control a Dark World card, you can special summon this card. So basically, it does act as a DDR, but because of the fact that I'm running 3 copies of Snow on Live Dark World, I have no use for Genta. Genta is essentially a brick. So Snow can act as a terraforming on its own. But truth be told, if I were to sort the deck out, let's see. Or rather, if I were to shuffle the deck, let's see. So basically my opening hand, and I just shuffle to prove it, would be Silva, Gren, Dark Resonator, Crimson Resonator, Gates of Dark World, and then I draw, and it ends up being a Hermit. So you're essentially going to be seeing you're going to be seeing your field spell either way. So there's really no need for there's no need for the Genta. Sorry guys, I can't speak. I'm like stuttering. For the Genta, there's no need for it because of the fact that you have Snow as your Stratos. So yeah. So basically that's basically the reason why I'm not running Genta. But as far as Pearl goes, Pearl is actually a lot better than Genta in a way. So Pearl's effect, Pearl Hermit of Dark World reads: if this card is discarded to the grave by a card effect, you can target a Dark World monster in your grave, except this card special summon it to either field. And if it was discarded to your hand from your hand to your grave by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one of your fiend monsters that is banished in your hand or in your graveyard to either field. So this card acts as a cyber rev system / DDR. So it gives you access to summon cards from the hand, the graveyard, or your banish pile, which because of the fact that I've got the field spell, you're gonna be doing a lot of banishing with the field spell, so you can get access to your tuner monsters, so you can just pop out from there. So that's why I'm only running 1 copy, mainly because of the fact that you already have ways to summon out your Dark World monsters from your graveyard. Grapha, Rainbow, Monster Reborn itself, and even also too, Beige, Vanguard, Silva, Gold. They basically generate a Monster Reborn effect, if you will. So that's why I'm only running 1 copy of Hermit. And then last but not least, to round up the Dark World monsters, we have 2 copies of Cerulli, Guru of Dark World. This card basically gives you a way to send, just trigger its effect. So when it's sent, how can I know, guys, I'm not making sense. So 2 copies of Cerulli. This gives you access to trigger its effect when it's sent to the grave by a card effect. It doesn't matter what it is. You get to summon it to your opponent's field, and it makes you Cerulli's opponent, so you get to discard a card from your hand. Which, for the most part, you're gonna most likely just send Snow or perhaps Rainbow or Grapha to trigger off their effects. But you kind of also want to send Gold to your grave for the most part, because that way you get to break their board and just pop up from there, which is absolutely insane. Now moving on into the rest of the monsters. First up, we have a single copy of Morphing Jar. I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, Morphing Jar? What the fuck? Yeah, the Dark World monsters have effects when they're discarded. And Morphing Jar's effect reads, both players discard as many cards as possible from their hands. Each player draws 5 cards when it's flipped. Because it's a flip effect. It's just too good. It's just too good in this deck. Way too good. And I just realized I am not running the one card that I wanted to run, so I'm gonna change that right now. Because I was running Book of Lunar Eclipse. But I think I'm just gonna use Book of Moon instead. And I'll talk about the side deck. I'll talk about the side deck once we get there. There we go. There we go. Anyway, moving on to the rest of the monsters, which is my Resonator package. I've got 2 copies of Dark Resonator, 2 Crimson Resonator, 1 Red Resonator, and a Synchron Resonator. Dark Resonator is just basic. It's just a 3-star vanilla. Obviously, the effect reads that the first time this card would be a star by battle. Each turn, it's not. The effect is just irrelevant. So it's essentially a 3-star. So it's essentially a 3-star 1300 vanilla. That's all it is. Tune this with, like, say, silver or gold. You basically get to make an 8-star monster. Dark and, let's say, any of the 4-star monsters, you basically get to make a 7. You know, Dark and, let's say, Hermit and Grand, you basically get to make a 6 for the most part. Crimson Resonator is so broken because with this card, if you have no monsters on board, you can special summon him from your hand, activate Dark World dealings, pitch beige. After you draw, special summon the beige, tune them together to make the red, to make Red Rising Dragon Witch, spoilers, trigger Red Rising's effect, special summon Crimson, and then activate Crimson's effect again. But this time you special summon the Synchron and the Dark Resonator, and you get to make Red Supernova Dragon, which is just a hell of a card. It is a hell of a card. Which is just a hell of a card. Absolutely broken. The monster lineup is just too good. Trust me, it is just too good. Moving on into the spells. For the spells, we got 2 copies of Resonator Engine. This gives you access to take any two of your tuner monsters, put them back into your grave, and then just rota out any of your monsters that are level 4 or below, which could be Brawn, Snow, Beige, Grand, Pearl, or even Cerulli if you have dealings in hand. And let's say I'll say Gold. You could do activate Engine, send Dark, and let's say Synchron back into your grave, add Cerulli to your hand. Or actually, sorry, add a level 4 monster. So basically it's Bronze, Snow, or Beige you could add to your hand, which I mean it's not too bad. But if it said that any one level 4 or lower monster from your deck to your hand, then I think Engine would have been just as powerful as it is now. But we are also running 2 copies of Resonator Call, which just basically gives you a Resonator to your hand. If you don't have one in hand, then you can add Crimson to your hand, trigger its effect, special summon it, activate dealings, draw, pitch Beige, and you can just start the combo there. And speaking of dealings, we have 3 copies of Dark World dealings. Self-explanatory. We all know what it does. Both you and your opponent draw 1 and discard 1. Plain and simple. That's all it does. One copy of Monster Reborn, mainly to resummon pretty much any of your synchros if you need be, and then the one that I mentioned, Dark World Puppet. So if your opponent were to activate Ash on Rainbow Supreme Overlord or Dark World, you can chain Dark World Puppet and use its effect, which reads: target up to 3 cards in any graveyard or graveyards, banish them, then discard a Fiend monster. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave, then target one of your banished Fiend monsters, add it to your hand. So what's cool about this is that this acts as 9 copies of Call By, because you're banishing 3 cards from your opponent's grave, and with Call By you're banishing 1. So if Dark World Puppet can do a Call By 3 times, that's basically 9 cards you're banishing from your opponent's graveyard. So if your opponent were to activate Ash, the effect doesn't trigger because it was never sent to the graveyard, it was banished. And I believe I have that ruling right. I'm gonna have to take a look really quickly. Come on. Thank you. I believe I have that ruling correct. Let's see. Let's look up. Let's see. Looking in. Yeah, I thought so. So obviously, obviously, for those who don't know, discarding Ash Blossom is actually a maintenance cost to trigger its effect. So if you were to activate, so if you chained, Dark World Puppet on your opponent's Ash Blossom does not trigger its effect. It gets negated instantly. So that's actually pretty good. So this is basically your Call By for the whole deck, and it just ensures that your opponent can't activate any hand traps, knowing that you have Dark World Puppet at your disposal. And then of course we've got the one Dark World Ascension, which is basically your polymerization for the whole deck. What the hell's in my mouth? Some sort of food got caught in my tooth. Anyway, again, it's basically a polymerization for the deck, but it's on steroids. So the effect reads during the main phase, fusion summon a Fiend fusion from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your field and or graveyard. If summoning a Dark World fusion monster this way, you can also discard monsters from your hand as material. During your main phase, if this card is in your grave, you can add it to your hand and discard a Dark World monster. So it basically gives you access to discard any of your Dark World monsters to trigger off its effect, which is really nice. And then of course we've got the one copy of Dark World Library. This is basically Graceful Charity on steroids. So the effect reads during your main phase you can discard one Dark World monster, and if you do, all Dark World monsters you currently control gain attack equal to the discarded monster level times 100 until the end of the turn. So if you were to discard, let's say, I'll say Grapha. Let's say you discard Grapha, all of your Dark World monsters gain an additional 800 attack, which is pretty good. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the second effect, which reads, if your monster or monsters whose original type is Fiend is discarded by the effect of a Dark World card or by an opponent's card, even during the damage step, you can discard one card, then draw 2 cards. You can only use each effect of Dark World Library once per turn. So again, the first effect doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the second effect. Where if you activated, let's say, Dark World Dealings or Dark World Puppet, and you discard a card, you essentially get a Pot of Greed, and that right there is the sole reason why I chose to take out Huntsman of Dark World, because while it is true that Bro does act as a Pot of Greed, you already have a Pot of Greed in a Pot of Greed like card in the form of Dark World Library, because you're discarding cards. I know I said Graceful Charity, but Dark World Library is basically a Pot of Greed on steroids. So that's why I chose to take the Bro out of the deck and replace it with replace them with the 1 Pearl and of course the 1 Dark World Library. I do have a second library in the side, but for the most part, you're not going to be taking a whole lot of cards out of the main during games 2 and 3. You really aren't. But to round up the spells, we have 3 copies of the Gates of Dark World, which basically is Dark World Dealings, but just even better, which is really nice. And then for the traps, we have 2 copies of the Great Soul. I've talked about this before. With the last Dark World deck that I did a profile on, but the effect reads: if a Dragon Synchro is on the field, special summon it to 2 Resonator monsters and or level 1 Dragon monsters from your deck. When a monster effect is activated while you control level 10 or higher Dark Dragon Synchro, you can banish the card from your grave and negate the effect. And if you do, 1 Synchro monster you control gains 2,000 attack until the end of the next turn. You only use each effect once per turn. So this is essentially Imperm on steroids, which is just absolutely insane. But what's even more cool about this is that if you summoned Red Rising Dragon and you resummoned, let's say, your Red Resonator, you can then activate Great Soul, target the Dark Resonator and the Synchron Resonator, summon them both, boom. You instantly have Red Supernova Dragon, because Red Supernova Dragon with this deck is so easy to summon. It is so easy. And people are probably going to think that it's not easy, but it really is. Trust me, it is. And then to round up the main deck, because this is a 47 card build. Originally, I think my last build was like a 50. Let's see, the last build I was running. Okay, yeah, I thought so. So the last build I was running was a 40, was like a 50 build. Yeah, it was like a 50 build or something like that. Hang on. Let's see. Let's have a look. Yeah. It was essentially like a... Yeah, it was literally close to a 60 card build with the last one. Because the last one, I was running like 31 monsters. This one, I'm running... This one, I'm running I'm only running a 47 build with this one, only because of the fact that you want to try and maximize getting out the monster from your extra deck as much as you can. So that's why I cut it down to 47. But to round up the main deck, we have 2 copies of Dark World Punishment, which is basically the solemn judgment for the whole deck, which reads: when a monster or monsters would be normal or special summon while you have a fiend monster in your hand, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster, then discard a fiend monster. If a Dark World monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can banish the card from your grave instead. You can only use each effect once per turn. This is essentially Solemn Judgment, Return of the Dragon Lords, all rolled into one, which is absolutely insane. Moving on into the extra deck, I'm gonna go from Synchro back over to Fusion, mainly because I want to showcase you guys how good this deck really is. So first up, we have 2 copies of Red Rising Dragon. This card basically, this card gives you access to summon, to resummon the Crimson Resonator from your graveyard, so you can then trigger off its effect to get out the Dark and the Synchron Resonator onto the board from the deck, and you can instantly summon Red Supernova Dragon. Or, if you wanted to, you can also go into Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, which stops Ash Blossom in its tracks, which is really nice. But it also has another effect where it reads during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave, then target 2 level 1 Resonator monsters in your grave, special summon them both. So the only 1-star Resonator that you have at your disposal is the Synchron Resonator, mainly because of the fact that you want to try and just maximize having 2-star, 3-star tuners, so you can then go into your plays into your synchros that are 7 stars and up. And speaking of 7 stars, for the level 7 synchros, we have Chaos King Archfiend and Dark Highlander. Dark Highlander is only in here to go up against, I think, I want to say the Flounderies decks, or is it? I want to say I want to say I think the Infernoble Knight decks, because I know that there are some decks in the format that run a bunch of equip spells, and this card basically lets you pop all equip cards that are equipped to one of your opponent's monsters, and they get dealt 400 points damage for each card destroyed, which is not too bad. But it also has another effect, which reads that neither player can synchro summon. So this basically locks both you and your opponent out of synchro summoning. But if you're able to make your board before summoning the Dark Highlander, then you're essentially just good to go. And then Chaos King Archfiend acts as a shield and sword for the whole deck, for the deck, which is really nice. We got the Infernity Doom Dragon, and of course the Void Ogre Dragon, which were Callan Kessler's cards. Doom Dragon's effect reads that if you have no cards in your hand, you can pop one of your opponent's monsters and deal damage to your opponent equal to half of its attack, which is really nice. And the downside to it is that he cannot attack the turn. He cannot attack the same turn the effect was activated. Void Ogre Dragon basically is a Solemn Judgment, is a quick play Solemn Judgment, but with both cards you have to have no cards in your hand, which is pretty simple for the most part. And then for the Red Dragon Archfiend cards, we got 2 copies of Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, just a house, not much else to say about that. We got the Hot Archfiend Abyss. This card basically just negates pretty much any back row any floodgates that your opponent may have at their disposal, which could be goes in match, could be it. I would say skill drain, but you would have to have Archfiend Abyss on board, you know, in the early stages of the game. So when your opponent does activate, you know, so when your opponent does activate the skill drain, you can then chain Archfiend Abyss to negate skill drain, and then activate Dark World Dealings, draw, and then send Gren to your graveyard to pop the skill drain, which that's quite the combo too, in my honest opinion. We got the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, which basically lets you resummon your Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend to go into more of your synchro plays. So the only cards that you're gonna mainly tribute for the most part is, you know, the pearls, and of course your morphing jar if you had triggered off its effect already, and you don't need it anymore. You can just send it to your graveyard and you can resummon the Archfiend Dragon that way. We have the Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend, which can easily break boards. But you have to have just this card on board to use up that effect. But it cannot attack, which is, or actually rather, which is okay, but still, I mean, it's a 3500 beast set, which is pretty good. We have Dragocytos Corrupted Nether Soul Dragon. This card basically just cuts your opponent's monster's attack in half during each of your standby phases, which is really nice. We got the Red Supernova Dragon, which can easily break your opponent's board really easily, which just from your opponent triggering any monster effect, or even when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish all cards that your opponent has, including this card. But during your next end phase, you get to resummon it, which is an Omni-Negate, which is really nice. And then of course to Hot Archfiend King Calamity, which again does stop hand traps in their tracks, which is really nice. And then of course Grapha Dragon Overlord of Dark World, which is the new fusion for the whole Dark World archetype. So it does require Grapha, but if you use Rainbow Supreme Overlord Dark World, you're gonna get more. You're gonna get so much more than just Grapha's effect. You're gonna get Rainbow's effect, and it's gonna help you with your I swear, 4 dogs and 3 of them bark at nothing. Anyway, so Dragon Overlord's effect reads: when your opponent activates a normal spell or trap or a monster effect as a quick effect, you can make that effect become your opponent discards one card. You can only use this effect once per turn. If the fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field by an opponent's card, you can special summon one of your Grapha Dragon Lord of Dark World that is banished or in your graveyard. Then each player with a hand discards 1 card. So basically, this is basically Dark Deal on steroids. So if you guys have never seen Dark Deal before, Dark Deal's effect reads when your opponent activates a normal spell, pay 1,000 life points. The effect of that normal spell becomes your opponent discards a random card. This card basically becomes that, and both you and your opponent get to discard a card if Dragon Overlord is sent to your graveyard by your opponent's card, and you resummon Dragon Lord of Dark World. You get to basically pitch Ceruli, and it's off to the races there, which is really nice. for the side deck, this is just my preference anyway on the side deck. You guys can have you know whatever side deck you want. But for my side deck, I am running a single copy of Gadarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, mainly going up against the Floowandereeze players out there, and plus I didn't have any room for a second copy because of the fact that I'm running 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 Ghost Belt, and a single copy of Scythe Friend Lord Omega. Omega is in the side to just basically take all of your banished cards and just put them back into your grave so you can trigger their effects again, which is really nice. We have the Card Destruction, 1 copy of Card Destruction, for which basically Morphing Jar on steroids. We have the 2 copies of Prohibition. So this card is so stupid it's not even funny. This card can stop pretty much any card that is in the game. Any card, any monster, any spell, any trap, anything. This could stop anything. It can even stop a Nibiru. If your opponent has Nibiru, you can activate Prohibition. Call. Excuse me. Call Nibiru, and you can just summon as much as you want, which is really nice. We've got the 1 Book of Moon for the Morphing Jar, and of course the 2nd Dark World Library for the traps. I just realized I don't think I need this. I was running 2 copies of Red Carpet, but I am gonna run a 2nd Gadarla, and I think what I'm gonna do. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a single copy of Zing Zang Hu, and I'll take out the 2nd library. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out the 2nd Dark World library, and put in 2 copies of Zing Zang Hu, and the reason being is because with this deck you don't want your opponent to pop off. You don't want your opponent triggering off their back row, and Zing Zang Hu just basically ensures that for the most part. And then of course we have 2 copies of Solemn Warning. So guys, that's gonna do it for this deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any new content that comes your way. And as always, make sure you guys follow me on all of my social media, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. I know that this was relatively long, but so I do apologize for that. But on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.